I'm coming to you to talk to you about our Sunday school lesson for today. And this month of December, we're talking about patience because we are patiently awaiting the arrival of the Christ child on Christmas Eve and celebrating on Christmas Day. But before that, we're waiting. And we've done a lot of waiting this year. And it's been hard. It is hard to wait. There's a book that my kids have. It's with Elephant and Piggy, and it's called Waiting is Not Easy. And I feel like that's what this year is all about. Learning patience and waiting. But today we're going to talk about God's promises to Abram. Now this is before Abraham, before the name change from Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah. And so, but we're talking about Abram today. And God has a promise for Abram, but Abram has to be patient and wait for God to fulfill that promise. And so, for the older kids, the higher grades, you can open up your Bible to Genesis chapter 15, verses 1 through 12, and verses 17 through 18. Actually, just read chapter 15, verses 1 through 18. And for the younger kids, I'm going to read from the Spark Study Bible, or Spark Story Bible, and I'm going to read to you the story from in here. So here we go. God's promises to Abram. God came to Abram and made a promise. Abram, you are very special to me. I will take care of you and give you lots of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. But Abram asked God many times, are you sure? I don't have any children yet. God thought Abram needed something more to help him understand. So God took Abram outside and showed him the night sky. Your family will include as many people as there are stars in the sky, God told Abram. Abram stared up at all those stars. He couldn't begin to count all those twinkling lights. Stars and stars and stars all around him. Abram looked up at the stars and saw God at work. Abram believed God. Now for another promise, said God to Abram. You will need a place for your huge family to live. I will give you this land as I promised. Are you sure, God? Abram asked again. God made a covenant with Abram, a promise that Abram would become a father, and a grandfather, and a great-grandfather, and a great-great-grandfather, and a great-great-great-grandfather, and on and on. And all Abram's many, many sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters would live with God in the land on which Abram stood. That is our lesson for today. So, for the younger kids, I would like you to listen to this story again with your parents or just like a sibling or somebody. And whatever comes to mind, I want you to draw it. I want you to draw a picture of what comes to mind after you hear the story again. Don't really think about it, just draw. For example, you could draw a picture with tons of stars, or you can draw lots of people because it talks about, generations of people. Or you could draw a picture of God talking to Abram with stars, with tons of stars. Whatever comes to mind when you hear this story again, just draw a picture. And I would love it, and so would everybody else, would love it if you would share that with us on our Facebook group, the Luther League group, not the page, not the St. John Lutheran page, but the Luther League group. We would love to see all your fabulous artwork. And for the older kids, read the verses that I said at the beginning, please. Genesis chapter 15, verses 1 through 18. And this week, find an artistic expression of what comes to mind when you read this passage. So, for example, like you can find a poem that reminds you of this. You can find a song. You can take a passage from a book, not the Bible. You got to get creative. You got to find something else that reminds you of this passage, though. You can Google it and look for famous artworks. And then everybody, sorry, would like you to share that picture or poem or whatever on our Facebook group. So then the younger kids can see that too. So everybody's going to share, the younger kids are going to share their artwork with all the other kids. And then the older kids are going to share some fun, extra artistic expressions of this passage with the younger kids. And we'll all learn together about patience and God's promises to Abram. Another fun activity that everybody can do is to go outside at night with a friend or a family member. In this case, a family member, because it's the COVID and everybody's, it's a mess. See how many stars you can count and remember God's promise. Okay? So, you all have a wonderful week. I know it's hard and we all have to have patience, but we can get through this. We can do hard things, and God is always with us. You have a blessed day, and I can't wait to do this again with you next week. Bye, everyone, and I can't wait to see your artwork and your artistic expressions of poems and music and all kinds of fabulous things when it comes to God's promise to Abram. Bye, everyone.